First up is Cody, and yeah, this is looking pretty good. It came together. I like that you have some cast shadows on the building. You can see, things like that right there, or the columns. Um, Might be nice to have the buildings casting shadows onto the street a little bit more, but I guess you can see that from this other side of the street. I like this point of view. It's interesting how you're framing the rest of the set with this object. That looks good. And yeah, I guess the area for improvement would be to have some image textures on the building rather than just the solid colors. That would take it to the next level. But the basic lighting is good and came together. It looks like maybe you have some kind of procedural texture on this surface, but having like wood planks or something on the front of the building would be, an improvement. Next up is Marcus. And yeah, again, this looks good. I think you succeeded with the camera angle and you've got the cast shadows going on. Some good layout with the wagon and all that kind of stuff in front of the building. And some interesting angles. I like how it's sort of framed by this object here, and you can see the building through the background. I think if you wanted to improve it, having some image textures on the building, like some wood panels, would take it to the next level. But overall, this looks good. Next up is Brittany, and I can see that a lot of you really took the doing the foreground elements to heart, and I think that really works out well. I can see you do have some image textures on here. I'm not sure if they've been mapped that well. It looks a little blurred. Yeah, I think you need to maybe adjust the U and V repeat of the texture because right now I think this is much too big for the size of the building. I think it's good that you got some images mapped on there, but I think they're mapped on there way too big because it looks like this whole thing is one big plank and you'd want like 20 or 30 in the place of that one. So you'll need to adjust that, and one way to do that is with the UV repeat node, which I can show you real quick. So just to understand this conceptually, I have an image mapped to this texture, and we can see this here. If you ever need to find what's on a certain surface, you can select the surface and in the hypershade hit that button and it'll show you. And here's the file texture, and here's where it can increase the U and V repeat. So for example, if I did 4 by 4, you see it repeats it multiple times, so I start to get these kind of panels. Now you start seeing a repeated pattern, which isn't always so great, but at least they can start to be the correct size. And with a good texture, the repetition is less obvious. So Xiangri ran into some issues doing a proper render with shadows and all that, but he did do a nice job with the image textures. You'll notice the kind of compared to some of the ones I was talking before, he's got sort of some nice wood panels here. So those turned out nicely, and you can see it on these different buildings here. So yeah, that's a big plus, and yeah, we'll have to figure out what's going on with your actual being able to render it, but the texturing looks good. Next up is Reese, and yeah, this got a nice brick texture on the building. That's looking good. You've got your cast shadows in here, and the light looks good. Yeah, good framing. You've got some foreground stuff. And another interesting angle from above, and some more texture going on here and stuff. So yeah, that looks good. I think this came together nicely. Did you break the wagon? That looks good. That worked out well. And it's very much to the proportions of the original, so that looks nice. That came out well. I don't really have much area for improvement. I suppose maybe a little more work here. I think this might be too high frequency of a wood texture on these, so you might want to kind of reduce the amount of repetition of the frequency on these pieces So it's almost sort of a staticky thing going on there. But besides that, it looks good. Actually, the bricks could probably be smaller a little bit. Those are sort of bricks on the large size, on the large side. So you might want to go a little smaller with the bricks. Um, Actually, I had a question about scaling up his building. So yes, the thing to do is to select the surfaces and then delete history, edit, delete by type history, and then group them. Make sure they're all grouped together. Control G, and then you should be able to scale them up proportionally. So yeah, the building looks real cute, all small like that. Yeah, sort of wish we had a little bit more of a close-up so we could appreciate the textures because they actually look pretty good. The wood stuff that you did here. And yeah, you've got the cast shadows as well, which is good. The lighting looks nice. So this turned out well, and as you point out, the scale is just the issue. So yeah, delete the history first. Make sure everything's grouped. Scale up that group node. Make sure nothing else is selected, just the group node, and then it should scale up just fine. But good work with the textures. They look nice. Next is Amelia. She did not turn in a textured image, but she did turn in this model, which is looking very good. Very accurate proportions, and these columns may be a bit thick and maybe not such a big base with the detail, but overall this is looking good. Maybe look for a little bit more detail in the bottom of the door, maybe a door handle. But yeah, this is working well. When you see these kind of artifacts there, like you're seeing here, usually means there's more than one surface on top of each other. So you might want to resolve that issue as well. Next up is Alena, and it looks like you got some nice textures on there. Yeah, definitely scale up the building so it's in the scale of the rest of them. And if you have to move stuff around, that's fine. Just make sure you delete history and group all the objects before you try and scale and move it. But yeah, you got some. Probably could have gone with some more, interesting views with foreground objects as far as camera views. It's good you got the cast shadows going. That looks good. The model turned out well. You've got some textures, some, you know, variety on the texture, so that's all good. So yeah, you've got all the basic stuff really good. I think you could have improved the camera angles, scale up the building, and those things would have helped. I guess you do have foreground objects on this one, so I take that back. I think I missed this one somehow. Um, yeah, but again, yeah, you look at the size of this wagon, and then compared to the building, obviously that needs to scale up. So delete history up all the objects, group them, scale up the group, and move the neighbors around as necessary, and you should be in good shape.